Hey, what if I told you your team might not be reacting to you, but a ghost? Not a ghost like the one you're thinking about, not one from a horror movie, not that kind of ghost, but the ghost of a former leader. A leader who left a nasty mark, or worse, a scar. And now every time you give feedback, you offer a new idea, you try to build trust, it's not just you in the room, it's them. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the subject of the ghost of leadership past. How past leadership trauma, it can still live on in your organization and certainly on your team. And what you, the new leader, can do about it.
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. So I have a client that I've been on a journey with, which brought about this conversation today. They had a horrible, and I don't use that term lightly, horrible leader on their hands. I would go as far as saying that this leader created trauma and was certainly toxic. Unfortunately, the owner of the company had this fierce loyalty to this horrible, toxic leader. And I'm talking fierce loyalty because, matter of fact, I talked about this on a show recently where loyalty that goes unchecked can be bad. Well, here we are. This is what happened. You know, this was a person that, was there from the beginning kind of person. And so they could literally get away with murder. I'm happy to report nobody was murdered. But there was certainly some trauma delivered. But this owner had such fierce loyalty and always overlooked it, just looked past it, kind of turned a blind eye to what they kind of knew was happening. After several months of my prompting, the owner took action. And they parted ways with this toxic leader. And here we began this interview process to finding what I knew needed to be a very strong-minded leader to come in after a leader like this. And we went through all kind of resumes and all kind of interviews, and we found what we believed to be a great replacement. And this replacement came in doing a fine job, making impact. I checked in with them at about the 90-day mark to find out that they were so frustrated. They felt like they weren't getting anywhere, tires in the mud kind of feeling, kind of down on themselves a little bit. And I did a little bit of diagnosis, and it seemed that the new leader was on the right track. They were doing the weekly check-ins. The team meetings were going well. They were creating SMART goals. They were creating individual development plans. Feedback loops seemed to be going okay. But it was evident to me that this leader was dealing with the residue and the stain that prior leader left behind. And I'm here to tell you, this is a hole to dig out of that typically is not going to happen fast. And so if you're in that boat right now, I'm going to give you some practical guides. And if you have never experienced this, it's likely that at some point you will. If you plan to be in leadership any length of time, you're probably going to be the one replacing a bad leader at some point. And that's why I felt it was necessary for us to have this conversation. And here's why it matters that we have this conversation. Every leader inherits more than a team. When you go into this new assignment, you go into this new role, you're inheriting more than a team. You're inheriting experiences, assumptions, and yes, you're inheriting the wounds of that team as well, that you, the new leader, are going to have to navigate, especially if your predecessor led with fear, control. They led with a big stick. Maybe they led with shame and embarrassing people in front of their peers. Or maybe they were just inconsistent. Nobody knew how they were going to show up today. And they were the kind of leader that when they walked through the office, everybody kind of flinched. Like, what are they going to do now? And this shows up in feedback more than almost anything else. You might say to a teammate, hey, let's talk about how the meeting went. And they hear, they're coming to take me out. That was horrible. What did I do wrong? All you asked was, let's talk about how the meeting went. Seems like a fair leadership question. But they're hearing something completely differently, because how it used to be done was anytime that leader talked to me, I'm about to get beat down. And now you, the new leader, have to navigate that. You say, can I offer a suggestion? And when you say that, they brace themselves for shame and this maybe, tongue lashing. Hey, can I offer you a suggestion? When what you're really trying to do is just that, offer them a suggestion. Where maybe that past leader, can I offer you a suggestion, always came by something very passive aggressive and demeaning. You didn't create the culture of fear. I understand that, but it is the one that you inherited. But you're stuck leading inside of this culture of fear, of intimidation. And unless you recognize this ghost of leadership past, you will think you're the problem. Or worse, you'll think that your team just isn't coachable. And I'm here to tell you it's probably neither of these things. What needs to happen is some healing. There needs to be kind of a reshelving of the culture on this team. And that is not going to happen fast. Think about it. I've given the analogy of the stray dog on this show in the past. You know, you see a stray dog, they're famished. You can see their rib cage. They haven't eaten in days. They're probably moments away from death. You have a level of empathy and compassion. So what do? You go to try to help the dog. And when you open up your car door and tell Skippy to get in the car, you're here to save the day, and you lean down to pick the dog up, what's it do? It bites you. Well, I'm just here to help. How dare you bite me? I'm here to save your life, and that's the thanks that I get? It's not you that's the problem. Their last owner beat them, kicked them, smacked them, abused them, didn't feed them. And now they're correlating you as the possibility of doing the same thing. So what do we have to do? We have to be patient. We have to build trust. We might have to do that through treats, through our demeanor, our posture, how we speak, all of these different things, until finally the dog starts to build a level of trust. And then, and only then, can you help the dog. Otherwise, guess what happens? The dog dies. And although people might not be physically dying in leadership and that team, they're never going to see their fullest potential. It's worth the effort to build the trust. So how do you know if your team is operating under the influence of leadership ghost past and a tyrant leader? How do you know? And by the way, it's important to know, because if you don't find awareness in this, you may be trying to self-diagnose and fix other things when this is really the problem. Here's some signs that you may be dealing with this on your own team. The first one is feedback aversion. You give feedback, even kind feedback, helpful feedback, and it's met with defensiveness, shutdown, silence. They're on edge to feedback. That's a great sign. The other sign is over-apologizing or over-explaining themselves. This is when your team members give very long justifications for the smallest things, small mistakes. They go out of their way. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you why. I thought and I felt like, and they go out of their way. Why? Because they're anticipating punishment. They're anticipating your wrath coming down like it always used to. The other indicator is that there's chronic undercommunication. Everybody's quiet as a mouse. Nobody's saying anything. People avoid saying hard things or giving any kind of feedback because they've learned that honesty comes at a cost. This happened to me once early in my leadership tenure, where we were on a conference call. I actually talk about it in my book, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World. We're on a conference call, and the senior leader asks the entire group of leaders, how do you feel like we can fix the problem? Said problem. And I responded on what I felt could fix the problem, of which my senior leader said, that's exactly why your numbers suck, Hancher. And I'm like, well, okay. I thought you were looking for feedback. Do you think I ever spoke up again? Do you think anybody on that call was rushing with a solution? No. Why? Because what the posture was, if you say it didn't matter what you said. It was going to come with resistance. There's a mistrust of positive feedback as well. They look skeptical when you praise them. If your team is looking at like skeptical when you say something great, this is a sign that they've had a leader like this. It's like they're waiting for the but. Hey, really nice job today. They're waiting for the but. And there's nowhere to be found, but they're waiting for it. They don't even know how to take a compliment. They don't know how to take positive feedback. Why? Because it always came with contingency with that past leader. And there might be a culture of low initiative. This is another big indicator that you're dealing with a prior leadership issue. They're capable, make no mistake about it, but they're cautious. And this isn't because they're lazy. It's not because they lack drive, but because the last time they stuck their neck out, guess what? Whack, it got chopped off. And so they're not going to stick their neck out. They're not going to innovate. They're not going to push the envelope. Why? Because when they stick their neck out, it gets chopped. They're not going to do that. If any of these behaviors are happening, this disengagement or quote unquote poor attitude, they might actually be symptoms of survival from the prior regime. They might actually be a great team. They might actually be good people. But these might be symptoms of surviving a poor past ghostly boss. So how do you break free from this ghost of leadership past? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to name it. You don't need to bash the last leader. I'm not here to tell you to pull them through the mud. But you do need to acknowledge the emotional residue that they left behind. You can say something like this. Hey guys, look, I know in the past, feedback may have come with stress. Maybe it came with a level of shame. But I want you to know, that's not how we're going to do it here. You don't have to name the past leader by name. You don't even have to talk about like too much detail. But you at least have to acknowledge it and assure them that it's not going to be the same way. Now look, talk is cheap, but you do have to name it first. You have to address it first. They need to hear it from you. Just naming it is the entry point to start building trust. But then you got to repattern the feedback loop completely. This is going to be a whole new concept for this team. Look for every opportunity to deliver positive feedback. I mean, look, we know you're going to have to give tough conversations. We know you're going to have to give some firm feedback. We know this, but I will tell you, if they're coming off of a bad, toxic boss, for every firm, tough conversation you have, you better have 10 positive deposits you can make. You need to be intentional as a leader to find people doing things right, to help repattern the feedback loop. Your goal is to normalize encouragement, not that they're hanging on, waiting for a but, right? And when you need to give developmental feedback, and you do, don't shy away from this, leader. Tie it to their growth, not your authority. This isn't do this because I said so. That's tying it to authority. Tie it to their growth. You want to say things like, here's something that I believe is going to help you grow into the next level of leadership. Here's something that's going to help you grow as a professional. Here's something that is going to serve you as you become more excellent. Always make it about them and the positive effect it has on them versus do this because these are the rules. Do this because this is how corporate wants it done. No, do this because it's going to benefit you. And always prioritize consistency over intensity. This is very important. Don't try to fix years of mistrust with some grand old speech. That's not going to happen. Even if it motivates them, they're going to be skeptical. Instead, show up consistently. Show up with predictable support. They know it's coming. Always remember that reliability builds safety way faster than charisma. Charisma's fleeting. They're looking for fruit on the fruit tree. If you're an apple tree, you don't grow oranges. Everybody knows that's off. Don't just get up there and give some grand old motivational speech and put goosebumps on them. No, be reliable. Reliability is going to build a safer culture and a safer environment. And don't assume. Don't assume anything. Ask questions. Ask everything. If you sense resistance, Lean into curiosity. Be a very curious leader. When you even smell resistance, lean in with a great collaborative question. You might say something like, hey, can I ask, how have you experienced feedback in the past? Hey, what kind of feedback helps you thrive? You think about these two questions, it's going to open up a whole new world for you as a leader. It's going to help you lead that person right where they're at. Their answers, when you ask these two questions, will reveal what ghost you might be dealing with so that you can begin to auto-correct that and create a safer environment. And celebrate being vulnerable on both ends, you the leader and them, the teammate. When someone takes feedback well or gives it to you, put a big spotlight on this thing. Tell them, thank you for trusting me enough to say that. And look, don't just give it a golf clap here. Like, we're trying to build a new culture. If somebody takes feedback from you well, you give them a tough conversation and they say, thanks for letting me know. Or they let you know a blind spot. Whether it's true or not true, it's irrelevant at this point. Say those words. Thank you for trusting me enough to say that. You know, trust grows where it's noticed. Make sure that you are capitalizing on that every chance that you get. Celebrate vulnerability. The truth is this: you didn't create the ghost of the leadership past, but it's now your responsibility to help your team heal from it. It is your responsibility. And healing doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen on accident. It happens through presence, consistency, and intentional leadership. So here's your challenge, leader. Find that ghost, name the ghost, and lead like you're building something better. Because the leader who scarred them, that leader might still be echoing in their minds. But I promise you this, the leader who heals them, that's the leader that they're going to follow forever. Make them believe in leadership again. Appreciate you all joining. If this episode helped you identify a leadership ghost on your team, send it to another leader that maybe needs to hear this. And remember, the best leaders, they don't just get results. They build cultures that people want to be a part of. Until next time, keep leading well, name those ghosts, and keep turning that pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.